The grand wedding hall fell silent as thunder cracked outside, rattling the stained glass windows. The doors burst open with a gust of wind and rain, and all heads turned in stunned disbelief. There she stood, soaked to the bone, hair clinging to her face, her worn dress darkened by the storm. She gasped for breath, eyes locking on the groom at the altar. The millionaire froze, the priest pausing mid-sentence. His bride-to-be clutched his arm tighter, her smile faltering. The poor girl didn't hesitate. She walked down the aisle, leaving wet footprints on the crimson carpet. Murmurs rose among the guests, but her voice rose louder. "Excuse me," she said, breath trembling but clear. "But this wedding is a trap." Gasps echoed. The groom's brows furrowed, eyes wide with 1,000 questions. The bride whispered something sharp in his ear, but he didn't move. His gaze was fixed on the woman he once left behind. The girl reached into her soaked coat and pulled out a wrinkled envelope. Sealed documents, photos, bank records. She held them up. "She's not who she says she is," she said, voice cracking with emotion. "Her real name is Elena Dorsey. She's been married before. Twice. And both husbands lost everything." The bride stepped back in fury, yelling denials. But the room was no longer listening to her. The groom stepped down slowly, taking the envelope. His hands trembled as he opened it, scanning the truth with widening eyes. The girl looked at him, not begging, not accusing, just hoping. "I didn't come to ruin your day," she said softly. "I came to stop your life from being ruined." And for a long moment, nothing moved, except the rain, still falling behind her like applause from the heavens. The wedding bells hadn't rung yet. Outside the hall, the world buzzed with soft music and nervous guests. But inside the quiet antechamber, the air was tight with tension. He stood before the mirror, adjusting his cufflinks. Elegant, composed, ready for the vows that would define his future. Then came a whisper of footsteps behind him. He turned, startled, to see her, the poor girl he hadn't seen in months. Her dress was plain, her eyes anything but. "What are you doing here?" he asked, voice low. She stepped forward, trembling but determined. In her hand, a worn photograph, folded once, edges frayed. She held it out. "I need you to look at this," she said, voice quivering. "Please." He took it hesitantly. The photo showed him, his fiancée, and a man he didn't recognize. The three were laughing together. The man's arm was around the bride's waist, his lips nearly brushing hers. His breath caught. "Who is he?" "Her husband," she replied quietly. "Or, was. No one's sure. But they've done this before. She marries, takes control, vanishes." His brow furrowed. "Why should I believe you?" She met his eyes, pain and urgency tangled in her expression. "Because I once thought I didn't matter to you. But I couldn't let you be destroyed just to prove I was wrong." He looked back at the photo, heart pounding. 1,000 doubts began to whisper where certainty once stood. "You're making a mistake," she said softly. "But it doesn't have to be permanent." Outside, the music swelled, the cue. The wedding was about to begin. He looked to the door, then back at her. And in that pause, heavy with betrayal and unspoken history, a decision hung in the balance. The ceremony had already begun. Candles flickered gently along the marble aisles. Soft strings played in the background as the bride approached the altar, her veil shimmering like mist. The guests were transfixed, unaware of the figure who had slipped quietly into the back. The poor girl stood alone in the shadows, her heart racing. No one turned to see her, until she spoke. "Excuse me, but this wedding is a trap." The music stopped. All heads turned. She stepped forward, slowly, steadily, until she stood in full view. Rain dotted her shoulders. Her hands shook, but her voice remained steady. The groom's face paled as he recognized her, his first love. The woman he had once whispered vows to beneath a willow tree. The woman he believed had abandoned him, or so he was told. She locked eyes with him. "She isn't who she says she is," she said, pulling out an old, time-worn envelope. "You proposed to me. Do you remember? Behind the bookstore on Larkhill Street. You gave me a ring, and then vanished." Gasps rippled through the guests. The bride's voice trembled. "She's lying." But the girl didn't back down. She opened the envelope, revealing copies of their engagement letter, the ring he gave her, now in pieces, and her stolen ID papers. "She took my name. My history. My place beside you," the girl said, voice breaking. "She used me to get to you." The groom staggered back, torn between memory and disbelief. The room held its breath. And in the silence, she whispered, "I didn't come to win you back. I came to free you." His eyes welled with tears, not just of shock, but of a truth long buried. Now, the question was, would he walk forward, or walk away? The wedding glittered like a fairy tale, rooftop lights, crystal chandeliers, and a skyline dressed in stars. Fireworks began to burst in the distance, illuminating the moment as the bride and groom stood beneath a floral arch. The officiant raised his book, and the guests leaned in, breathless. "I now ask you to speak your vows." But just as he opened his mouth to begin, a voice sliced through the night. "Excuse me," she called, firm, unmistakable. "But this wedding is a trap. You're being played." Gasps rose from the crowd. The groom turned sharply, mid-vow, eyes searching. There, emerging from the shadows at the edge of the rooftop, stood the poor girl. Her dress was simple, her posture steady, but her eyes trembled with urgency and pain. She clutched a small folder to her chest, lips pressed in determination. The bride froze. Her fingers gripped his tighter. "You shouldn't be here," the bride hissed under her breath. But the girl stepped closer, her voice louder. "She's working with Victor Lennox, your business rival. I have the proof. Email chains. Wire transfers. They planned this from the start." The groom's eyes darted between them, thunderstruck. "That's insane," the bride snapped. "She's obsessed, jealous." The poor girl opened the folder and held up the evidence for all to see, screenshots, bank records, a photo of the bride in Victor's arms, time-stamped just weeks ago. "I didn't come to embarrass you," she said, voice cracking. "I came because I still care. Even after what you did to me." The music had stopped. The fireworks had faded. Only silence remained now, and one man caught between a vow built on lies, and a truth that had risked everything to save him. The City Hall courtroom was filled with whispers and polite anticipation. The ceremony was short, simple, just how the bride had wanted it. The millionaire stood tall, composed, though a faint unease lingered in his eyes. Just as the officiant opened his mouth to begin, a loud bang echoed from the glass-paneled door at the back. Everyone turned. There she was, on the other side of the courtroom glass. The poor girl, frantic, her palm pressed against the surface. Her eyes locked with his, desperate. "Excuse me, but this wedding is a trap. She's lying about everything." Gasps erupted. The guards rushed to shut the doors behind her, locking her out as if she were a threat. The bride's face twisted. "Security. She's trespassing." The officiant paused mid-sentence, unsure. But the groom didn't look away. His feet felt frozen. The girl held up a plastic folder, fogged by the glass. Inside were papers, photos, evidence. "She's forged her whole life," the girl cried. "That's not her real name. Her passport, her accounts, everything's fake." The room fell into stunned silence. She pounded the glass again. "I tried to get here before, but they blocked me. Please, just look at the documents. You're being used. The bride clung to his arm, trembling, though with fury, not fear. She's crazy, the bride hissed. An ex-bitter. Unwell. But the doubt was spreading like wildfire across his face. The groom took one slow step toward the door. Behind the glass, the poor girl's eyes pleaded, not for herself, but for the truth. I know you don't love me anymore, she whispered, but you deserve to know who you're marrying. And in that moment, the wedding halted, justice banging louder than any gavel, and love returning in its most dangerous form, the truth.